Have you ever wondered why some people come to Jesus in the quiet of the night, when the world sleeps and no one is watching? Tonight, we explore the story of a man who sought truth under the cover of darkness, a visit that changed his life forever. Welcome to Midnight Psalms, where we uncover the quiet moments of faith, the private encounters with God that transform hearts, and the lessons that speak directly to our lives. Here, every night has a story waiting for you. Nicodemus walked through empty streets, his heart full of questions. The stars barely lit his path, and the city slept quietly. He knew coming to Jesus at night was risky, yet he longed for answers the daytime never offered. Curiosity and hope pushed him forward, each step a silent prayer, each thought a reflection on what he might discover. Stories of Jesus' miracles had stirred something deep inside him, something the law alone could not satisfy. He wanted to understand God in a way he never had before, to see the truth beyond public appearances, and to feel the peace that had eluded him for so long. Jesus noticed Nicodemus approaching, a respected teacher of Israel, careful and cautious in the shadows. The night offered privacy, a safe space for questions. Their conversation began simply, yet quickly touched deep truths. Jesus spoke of being born again, of spiritual transformation that goes beyond human comprehension. Nicodemus, grounded in law, struggled to understand. The night seemed to hold its breath as words revealed gaps between knowledge and true faith. For the first time, he glimpsed a perspective of God's kingdom beyond rules and rituals. Nicodemus asked how it was possible to experience this new life. Jesus spoke of the Spirit, invisible yet powerful like the wind, moving where it wills. Nicodemus leaned closer, trying to grasp the mystery. Each word challenged his understanding, revealing that righteousness alone was not enough. Faith required surrender, trust, and a heart open to God's guidance. The night became sacred, a space for learning and reflection, where questions met answers that could transform a soul. Every sentence carried weight, calling Nicodemus to consider a path he had never imagined. The conversation deepened, and Nicodemus felt a stirring of hope and fear. Jesus spoke of light entering the darkness, a light the world cannot resist if embraced with faith. The city's noise faded into insignificance as the teaching unfolded. Nicodemus realized that spiritual courage meant letting go of certainty and stepping into the unknown. He confronted the limitations of human understanding and felt drawn to trust in God's unseen power. The night held a sense of intimacy and clarity, a reminder that divine revelation often comes quietly, away from public scrutiny. The midnight meeting became a classroom for the heart, where Jesus' words painted truths Nicodemus could not ignore. Knowledge alone could not save, it had to transform the soul. The quiet streets stood witness to a life in motion, a heart opening to divine insight. Nicodemus felt responsibility and hope intertwined, understanding that the kingdom of God operates differently than earthly systems. He sensed that seeking God in silence, in private, is often where the deepest lessons are learned. Every moment reinforced that transformation comes when one humbles the heart and listens. Nicodemus wrestled with the new ideas, feeling drawn yet cautious. Jesus emphasized surrender over control, belief over proof. The Spirit moves subtly, often in ways we cannot predict, and Nicodemus began to see this truth. Faith demanded humility, courage, and trust beyond human logic. The night offered the perfect setting for such learning, quiet and uninterrupted. Jesus' words continued to resonate, revealing that true life comes through a spiritual rebirth, a heart aligned with God rather than mere adherence to rules. The Spirit seemed present in the midnight air, guiding Nicodemus' thoughts. True understanding, he realized, comes through personal encounter with God. The darkness, far from threatening, became a sanctuary for reflection. Nicodemus saw that spiritual insight requires stillness and openness, that revelation often comes when we step away from the crowd. Each teaching illuminated paths he had not walked before. The night became a reminder that seeking God's truth in solitude often leads to the clearest vision and the deepest change. Jesus spoke of love, sacrifice, and the eternal plan that surpasses human understanding. Nicodemus felt awe and humility, realizing that learning is lifelong. The darkness around them framed the moment, a private meeting between heaven and earth. Rebirth was possible for anyone who sought it, and understanding required both faith and action. Nicodemus sensed a seed planted in his heart, a promise of growth and transformation. The night itself seemed to echo the hope and clarity dawning within him, a divine reminder that God meets seekers in quiet, unexpected ways. Nicodemus left with questions answered and new ones awakened. Faith, he realized, is an ongoing journey, requiring trust, courage, and patience. The darkness had been a witness to this turning point, a sacred moment of insight. Jesus' words would continue to guide him, reminding him that spiritual rebirth is a process, not an instant achievement. He returned home carrying assurance that God's light is always present for those willing to seek it honestly, and that private encounters can leave eternal marks on the soul. Reflecting on Nicodemus' visit, we learn that God often meets us in quiet, unexpected ways. The night, often feared, can be a place of revelation. We are invited to ask questions boldly, to trust God's Spirit, and to embrace the transformative journey of faith. Even when life feels uncertain or risky, seeking Jesus brings clarity, hope, and renewal. Let this story inspire you to step into your own midnight moments, to listen for God's voice, and to allow His truth to guide your heart gently and deeply. If you are enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help this channel reach more people. Now let's continue. As Nicodemus walked away, the city still silent around him, he felt a quiet change inside. The words of Jesus lingered in his mind, reminding him that transformation begins in the heart, not in public displays. The night had offered a rare intimacy, a space for honesty and reflection. He realized that true understanding comes when we are willing to be vulnerable, to ask questions even when it feels uncomfortable. Each shadow seemed to echo the hope he now carried, the possibility of rebirth, and the promise that God meets seekers in their sincerity, regardless of status or position. The journey home was filled with contemplation. Nicodemus understood that faith cannot be confined to rules or tradition. It must be experienced personally. Jesus' words had opened a new perspective, revealing that spiritual life is about surrender and trust, not rigid control. Every step in the quiet streets reminded him that seeking God is often a solitary path, one where courage and humility must walk hand in hand. The night had taught him that transformation is ongoing, a process of aligning one's heart with divine truth, even when the world is unaware. He reflected on the metaphor of the wind, the Spirit moving unseen yet powerfully. It reminded him that God's work in our lives is often invisible to others but profoundly real within. Nicodemus realized that his desire for answers was part of a larger divine plan, and that each question brought him closer to understanding God's heart. The midnight encounter showed him that seeking Christ requires patience and openness, and that spiritual growth often begins in moments of quiet reflection, when distractions fade, and the soul listens attentively to the voice of God. The thought of rebirth stayed with Nicodemus, a powerful invitation to change and renewal. He understood that entering God's kingdom is not about following rules perfectly but embracing faith, love, and transformation. The encounter reminded him that personal connection with God is more important than public approval or recognition. Each word of Jesus resonated within him, encouraging him to move forward with courage, knowing that divine guidance often comes when least expected. The night had revealed that seeking God sincerely can bring profound clarity and peace. Nicodemus thought about the people around him. How many walked through life blind to spiritual truth? He felt a gentle urgency, a call to live differently, to embrace faith quietly but fully. The midnight visit had shifted his perspective, showing that even the most learned can be taught by God in unexpected ways. He realized that spiritual encounters are often private and intimate, meant to transform hearts before changing outward actions. The night had become a sacred witness, marking a turning point in his life, a step towards spiritual clarity and trust in God's plan. As he walked, Nicodemus considered the courage it takes to seek truth honestly. Fear and pride can keep many from stepping into the light, yet the night showed him that sincerity and openness are key to spiritual growth. Jesus' invitation to rebirth was not limited to him. It extends to all who seek with a willing heart. The quiet streets mirrored the calm that now began to settle in his mind and soul. Nicodemus realized that divine encounters often require humility, and that even in the darkness, God's truth shines brightly for those ready to receive it. Reflecting further, Nicodemus understood that transformation is a journey, not a momentary event. Faith requires continuous surrender, trust, and the willingness to learn. The night had allowed him to confront doubts without fear, to question without shame, and to receive answers with openness. Jesus had shown that the Spirit moves in mysterious ways, guiding hearts and revealing truth quietly. The encounter had planted seeds of faith that would grow steadily, shaping his thoughts, choices, and life in ways he could not yet fully see. Nicodemus remembered the simplicity yet depth of Jesus' teaching. The night had become a classroom where divine wisdom was shared, unseen yet deeply felt. He realized that true rebirth is not about ceremonies or recognition but about inner change. The quiet had allowed him to absorb the lessons fully, to let them resonate within. Each idea challenged old assumptions, encouraging him to embrace faith in action, love, and trust. The midnight hour had become a sacred bridge between human understanding and divine insight, a moment where heaven touched his heart directly. As dawn approached, Nicodemus felt a sense of peace and hope he had never known. The night had been transformative, a private encounter that revealed God's love and guidance. He understood that seeking Jesus requires courage, humility, and persistence. The lessons learned in darkness would guide his steps forward, influencing his actions, decisions, and heart. The encounter reminded him that God meets us where we are, often in unexpected times and places, and that spiritual transformation begins with a sincere heart willing to listen and follow divine guidance. Tonight, Nicodemus' story reminds us that our quiet moments, our private questions, and our sincere seeking matter deeply to God. The night, though often feared, can become a place of revelation and renewal. Let this inspire you to step into your own midnight encounters with faith, courage, and openness, trusting that God's Spirit will guide you, illuminate your path, and bring transformation to your heart. Seek Him sincerely, listen closely, and allow His truth to shape your life gently and deeply.